Hi. The Kentucky Senate recently voted to pass Bill number 115, which is legislation regarding drag queen shows. The bill is an attempt to make it a crime for drag queens to perform in the presence of children or on public property. The House hasn't read the bill yet and doesn't have time now to do so before the veto period starts, so it's dead at the moment. House Bill 470 is an omnibus anti-trans bill being considered right now too. But Republicans are having trouble coming up with the right language. Now, back to the first bill. Similar shows by people not in drag are fine. But if a man is dressed as a woman, our Senate wants to make that a no-no in Kentucky. A misdemeanor at first, but the third conviction is a felony. It's just too sexual. Oh yes, Kentucky needs medical marijuana. We need gun control. We need better schools and roads and higher wages and, well, you get the point. But no, our government decided it was more important to do something about those evil drag queens and trans people. Men in dresses, that's sexual. And transgender people are viewed the same way. Too much sexuality showing. Or so they tell us, but there is absolutely nothing sexual about a man in a dress any more than there is about a man in pants. If you think so, then I guess we know what turns you on. Do little girls in dresses turn you on too? Little boys? What is it about a man in a dress that you think is sexual? You were okay with Mrs. Doubtfire, weren't you? Oh, yeah, she was old and unattractive, right? No pretty makeup or jewelry or sweet-smelling perfume to mess with your head. And men who keep their hairy legs and hairy faces and just put on a dress and maybe big boobs are funny, that's just a joke. Nothing sexual about those men, they don't arouse you. You see where I'm going with this? Those who are up in arms against drag queens and transgender people find drag queens and trans people to be sexual. That is, they find them to be sexy. And they don't like it. I don't know, maybe they think there's something wrong with them if they find a man sexy when he dresses like a woman or vice versa. Gotta nip that in the bud. And children just can't be around sexy people. Oh, sure, all those scantily dressed cheerleaders dancing about are okay, and Superman and the Flash can show everything they've got, and it's okay, cool for kids. They won't be damaged by that. Shoot, little girls maybe 6 years old can be dressed up with makeup and fancy hair and clothes to look like grown women to participate in beauty pageants, and that's just fine and dandy too. Sexualize those babies. Oh, and this passage here from the Bible is definitely okay for kids to read or heard read and discussed. Genesis 38:9, but Onan, seeing that the offspring would not be his, went in to his brother's wife, but he let his seed go on to the earth, so that he might not get offspring for his brother. Nothing sexual at all about that. Read it to your babies. In fact, read the whole story presented in Genesis 38. Judah, the son of Jacob, had 3 sons. Yahweh killed the first, named because he was evil. Since died childless, Onan, the second son, was supposed to have a baby with Er's wife, but the baby wouldn't be considered his. Everybody would pretend it belonged to Onan didn't like that and pulled out when he had sex with Er's wife, causing Yahweh to kill Onan too. Judah had a third son named Shelah, but he was just a boy. So Judah sent Er's wife, whose name was Tamar, back to her father. Judah was afraid Shelah would also die trying to get Tamar pregnant. I can't blame Judah for that. But when Shelah was grown, Judah still refused to let Tamar have him. Again, can't blame him. So one day, when godly Judah was looking for a prostitute to pay for sex, Tamar covered herself with a veil so he wouldn't know who she was and had sex with him. She had twins by Judah, but I guess everybody pretended they belonged to or hey, maybe they belonged to Onan at this point. Anyway, here's the funny part. When Judah found out that Tamar was pregnant, he said, "Take her out and burn her." Yes, burn her for having sex, but it was somehow okay for him to hire her as a prostitute. Of course, she proved he was the father of her boys by the items he used to pay her with. Beautiful and holy story, isn't it? And listen, boys and girls, to this lovely verse from the Bible. Nahum 3:5. See, I am against you, says the Lord of armies, and I will have your skirts pulled over your face. and let the nations see you unclothed, and the kingdoms your shame. Oh, children, treasure that tale. Our loving God was angry with Israel, so he brought together her lovers to take off all her clothes and present her naked before him. If you don't behave, our amazing God may strip you naked before your little friends. That's obviously the lesson he wants you to learn. But that's not really sexual, you might say. Well, yes, it is. It's also violent. But we don't care about how much violence children are exposed to, do we? Okay, what about this? Do you find this sexual? Song of Songs 7. How beautiful are your feet, the curves of your legs are like jewels. Your stomach is a store of grain with lilies around it, and in the middle a round cup full of wine. Your two breasts are like two young roes of the same birth. How beautiful and how sweet you are, O love, for delight. You are tall like a palm tree, and your breasts are like the fruit of the vine. I said, let me go up the palm tree, and let me take its branches in my hands. Your breasts will be as the fruit of the vine, and the smell of your breath like apples, and the roof of your mouth like good wine flowing down smoothly for my loved one, moving gently over my lips and my teeth. I am for my loved one, his desire is for me. Come, my loved one, let us go out into the field. Let us go out early to the vine gardens. Let us see if the vine is in bud. If it has put out its young fruit, and the pomegranate is in flower, there I will give you my love. Nothing sexual about that, right? That's from the good book. It's good and holy. Kids should be read that on a daily basis. Oh, and that's not all. The entire Bible is sexual. The relationship Yahweh has with Israel in the Old Testament is that of a marriage. Now, the only reason for a marriage is to have sex. We can do everything else with anyone, including children. Sex is a union of bodies. It is, according to the Bible, confined to the relationship of husband and wife, at least in the New Testament. This is what Yahweh was to Israel, her husband. In fact, Yahweh was a polygamist because he had two wives, both Israel and Judah. Jeremiah 3:8 says, And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. Ezekiel 16 talks about how Yahweh found Israel in her blood. Israel had come to the time of love, as her breasts were formed, and her hair was long. But she was naked, so Yahweh dressed her up and made her beautiful. But then we read, Ezekiel 16:15, but you put your faith in the fact that you were beautiful, acting like a loose woman because you were widely talked of, and offering your cheap love to everyone who went by, whoever it might be. The untrue wife who takes strange lovers in place of her husband. They give payment to all loose women, but you give rewards to your lovers, offering them payment so that they may come to you on every side for your cheap love. And in your loose behavior, you're different from other women, for no one goes after you to make love to you, and because you give payment and no payment is given to you, in this you are different from them. For this cause I will get together all your lovers with whom you have taken your pleasure, and all those to whom you have given your love. With all those who were hated by you, I will even make them come together against you on every side, and I will have you uncovered before them so that they may see your shame. Yahweh punished Israel for her adultery. She was his wife and made a cuckold of him. So he was a bit mad about it, as any husband would be. Just as the relationship with Yahweh and Israel is described in a sexual manner, so is the relationship between Jesus and the church. The church is the bride of Jesus. He is her head with rights to enter her and control her. Well, actually, the church is only a spouse to Jesus. He has entered her prematurely. The church commits fornication with Jesus since they aren't really married. The church has to allow Jesus to enter her and control her to prove that she's worthy to be his wife, to show that she's made herself ready for him by giving it up before marriage. A Christian man once told me that he wondered if Christian women get turned on thinking about being in a marital relationship with Jesus. So, yeah, the depiction of the Christian life as a marriage conjures up the idea of sex in the minds of humans. The Bible is sexually explicit. The Bible actually comes right out and regales us with sexual images. Drag queens and transgender people do not do that. By the way, do you know what the sign of Israel's covenant with Yahweh was? Well, I'm sure you do, but let me say it anyway. A man who wanted to show he loved Yahweh had to cut off a piece of skin from his penis. Penis skins were cool. You could buy a wife with them. David bought Saul's daughter with 200 penis skins. David pulled down the pants. Oops, sorry, men didn't wear pants back then. David pulled up the dress. Yes, sorry. But men were fine in dresses at one time. Wasn't sexual at all. And David held other men's penises in his hand and sliced off the foreskin to buy his wife. See, back then women were property. Men bought them from the girls' fathers. Women were basically sex slaves. All very good and holy, right? Tell your children about it. But if you're a father, don't dress up as a woman to tell these beautiful stories to your children. That would be abominable. Oh, where are my pearls to clutch when I need them? For the love of children, that's what the Kentucky Senate said. They want to keep children from drag queens to protect them and allow them to be children. But the Bible's sex and violence, as well as ordinary everyday heteronormative sexuality, is A-OK for children, according to Kentucky. Hypocrites, every last one of them who voted for this bill. This is what is important to Kentucky's legislature. This is what they waste time and our money on. Drag queens and trans people are just too sexy. That's the problem, and Kentucky's not having it. SMH, y'all. SMH. Thank you. Bye.